You don't need to knock harder. You need to stand in the right key. There are days when the smartest thing you do is sit down, breathe slower than the world expects, and discover that the thing you thought was missing was never outside you. We're taught to chase life down, to outwork the future, and bargain with the present. But the universe is not impressed by noise. It doesn't answer our speeches. It responds to our signal, and our signal becomes clear the moment we return to the role of the observer present. Steady, unhurried, like a tide that keeps its appointments, I want to speak to you the way I would speak across a kitchen table. Late afternoon, light on our hands, the kettle humming in the background. Maybe you've tried the techniques, affirmations, vision boards, 100 different hacks to get reality to behave. And perhaps you've noticed something honest when you practice from a place of lack. It's as if your efforts amplify the very emptiness you're trying to escape. The more you reach, the farther it feels. That isn't failure, that's feedback. The field around you reads the quality of your attention, not just its direction. Attention that says, "I don't have it," will call back a world that agrees. So we begin with a softer move. We become the observer, not a passive bystander, but an attentive host. Imagine you're sitting a few inches behind your eyes, watching thoughts and moods come and go, the way you'd watch weather move across a lake. Nothing to fix, nothing to chase, just an honest willingness to be with what is. That willingness changes the conversation your body is having with the world. Your breath deepens, your nervous system loosens its grip, and the signal you broadcast steadies into something reality can actually meet. This is where the quiet magic starts, not the fireworks kind, the hearth fire kind. A small invitation arrives that fits your week instead of consuming your life. A conversation finds you and leaves you lighter rather than drained. You wake with a sentence you needed and realize your problem didn't vanish. Your relationship to it softened. Like rivers that stop trying to run uphill, your effort becomes cooperation, and cooperation is contagious. Life hears it. If you're older, and many of you are, you already know this. Somewhere in your bones, you've lived long enough to watch certain doors open the very moment you stopped arguing with them. You've seen loss prune your life, only to make room for fruit you didn't know you could grow. What I'm offering isn't a new trick, it's a new rhythm. We stop hunting, we start tuning. Tuning begins in the body. Place a hand on your chest if you can. Feel the lift and fall. No drama, no performance. Just breath the way the earth breathes through trees. When the mind gallops toward control, how will this work? When will it happen? What if it doesn't let the questions pass like cars at night and return to the lighted porch of your inhale? 5 slow breaths can do more for your future than 5 frantic plans. Because breath tells your field, we're safe enough to soften, and softened fields receive from here. We shift from performing to allowing. Allowing is not laziness, it's intelligent participation. You still make the call, you still send the email, you still take the walk, clean the drawer, show up to the appointment. But you move from a clean yes, not a clenched must. The observer acts without begging for immediate proof. When the next step is taken in calm, the step after that shows up with less noise. Streetlight to streetlight. That's how the road reveals itself. You'll notice something else. When you live like this, the small wins that once felt like teases become tastings. A little money lands not to taunt you, but to teach your system how stability feels. A compliment arrives, and instead of deflecting it with a joke, you let it sit in your chest long enough to change your posture. A door cracks open, and you walk through without yanking it off its hinges. You are training your body to hold goodness without bracing for its disappearance. That training matters more than any grand strategy, because success without capacity becomes stress with better lighting. Of course, every real threshold has a gatekeeper. Just when your signal clears, An old pattern returns, wearing reasonable clothes, a safe offer that costs your voice, a familiar relationship that asks you to become smaller again, a bill that lands the week you finally invest in yourself. Don't panic. This isn't sabotage, it's a fidelity check. The question is simple and kind. Will you answer this moment with yesterday's reflex? Or with today's frequency? Take one breath. You can feel all the way to your back. Let your yaf soften. Then speak the smallest sentence you can live with tomorrow. Not this, or this way, or I need time. The hinges will move. Let's bring this down to the ordinary, where miracles like to hide. In the morning, before you reach for the news or the list, put your attention in your body. Feel your feet on the floor. Whisper, I observe from wholeness. Make coffee slowly, as if the kettle were teaching patience. When you sit down to work, choose one task that brings you into coherence, something you can complete without dividing yourself. Completion is a muscle. It strengthens your signal. Throughout the day, guard a few minutes of quiet, the way you'd guard medicine. Not because silence is fancy, but because silence is functional. It clears the static, so guidance can be heard without shouting. And please, make space in your home and calendar for the life you're calling. A clear table is a vote for clarity. A drawer left empty on purpose is a landing pad for the new. A patch of morning light on your favorite chair can do more for your coherence than another hour of arguing with your to-do list. Environment isn't decoration. It's a tuning fork. When your space exudes order, your attention stops tripping over clutter to get to what matters. In relationships, let your boundaries become doorways rather than walls. The observer doesn't punish or persuade. The observer allows truth to shape the bond. I'm available tomorrow. Not tonight. I can help with this piece. Not the whole thing. I'm willing to talk, but not to perform. The people who belong in your next chapter will breathe easier when you speak like this. The people who don't will quietly make room. Either way, your field stays intact, and an intact field magnetizes the right companions. Now, if the world inside your chest feels a little quieter, just listening to this, that calm is not a luxury. It's a position, an inner posture from which life aligns. From that posture, your prayers change tone. They stop sounding like emergency broadcasts and start sounding like invitations. Here I am, in tune, ready to meet what's ready to meet me. And life, being exquisitely responsive, steps toward you at exactly the pace of your coherence. This is why I say, you don't need to knock harder. You need to stand in the right key. When your breath, your choices, and your attention begin to rhyme, doors recognize you. Opportunities stop behaving like stray cats and start acting like homing pigeons. Money becomes a tool you direct. Instead of a verdict, you fear. Love sounds less like audition and more like presence. Two regulated nervous systems sharing a room where nobody has to vanish to keep the peace. If you want a closing picture, imagine this evening light in your kitchen. A clean counter. A note by the sink with tomorrow's one true task. You wash a single cup like it matters because, in a coherent life, everything matters, in the right proportion. You sit for 3 quiet minutes, the kind of quiet that doesn't demand perfection. Only honesty. You place your hand on your chest and feel that steady drum that never voted against you. And you whisper soft enough to believe yourself. I choose harmony over hurry. I choose presence over proof. I choose the next honest step. That's it. That's the doorway. You were never meant to bully the universe into compliance. You were meant to become compatible with the life that's already looking for you. When you do, when you stop hunting and start tuning, the conversation changes. Opportunity isn't a rare animal anymore. It becomes a daily language. You see it. You receive it. And, most beautifully, you keep it. Not because you're stronger than everyone else, but because you finally match what belongs to you. So take one breath you can feel. Let it widen the room inside your ribs. Stand. Not louder, but truer. The tide knows your name. It always has. And it is right on time. 1. The observer effect and the nature of attention. Here's the quiet truth I wish someone had handed me years ago. What you look from matters more than what you look at. In the microscopic world, physicists describe particles as waves of possibility until they are observed. Observation collapses. The wave potential becomes form. We hear that and think it's only about lab coats and instruments. But sit with it a moment. In daily life, your attention functions much the same way. Whatever you attend to doesn't just receive your gaze. It receives your interpretation, your breath, your history, your nervous system's weather. The gaze is a lens, but the quality of the lens tight or soft, fearful or trusting, lacking or whole, shapes what you end up experiencing. I've lived both sides. I've looked at a perfectly ordinary day from scarcity and found proof that everything was slipping away. The same day, from sufficiency, revealed small kindnesses. I had walked past 100 times the way morning light rested on the kitchen counter, like a blessing. The way a stranger held a door and didn't expect a performance in return. The way one honest conversation moved something heavy inside me that a dozen plans could not. The external didn't change. The observer did. Attention is not just a flashlight. It is a tuning fork. Aim it with fear, and the world hums in dissonance. Aim it with wholeness, and events begin to fall into chord. This isn't about pretending pain is sweet or denying that life can be harsh. It's about acknowledging that reality arrives with more possibilities than your first reaction allows. The stance you hold, jaw tight or shoulders lowered, breath shallow or full, decides which version you get to live in. Watch how this plays out in small moments. You open your inbox and see a delayed reply. From lack, the mind rushes to judgment. I'm being ignored. Something's wrong. The body follows heat in the face. Stomach clenched. Fingers ready to type a defensive paragraph. From wholeness, you notice the same delay and ask a kinder question. What else could this mean? You breathe once, feel your feet, and draft a clear, warm follow-up. One sequence escalates, the other de-escalates. One collapses possibility into conflict. The other keeps the field open long enough for clarity to find you. The email you eventually receive may look similar either way, but who you became while waiting is not the same person. Or consider money so charged for so many of us. You look at your account from scarcity, and every number becomes a verdict. You look from sufficiency, and the same number becomes a tool with assignments: this portion to stability, this portion to generosity, this portion to an honest pleasure that keeps you human. Scarcity narrows the hallway. Sufficiency widens it so you can walk in without hitting your shoulders on the walls. I'm not asking you to be naive. I'm inviting you to be precise. Precision begins in the body. Before you interpret what you see, notice how you are seeing. Are you bracing? Is your breath caught in the top of your chest? Is your jaw doing the thinking for you? The nervous system is the first observer. If it is flooded, your vision shrinks to threat detection, and you will call it realism. If it is regulated, even a little attention can become generous without becoming foolish. From that generosity, wiser options appear: the phone call you can make without self-betrayal, the boundary you can speak without a courtroom, the small step that keeps your day honest. People sometimes ask, how do I switch from lack to wholeness? In the middle of real problems, gently. You don't have to invent a new personality. You cultivate a different posture. Imagine sitting a few inches behind your eyes, as if the mind were the front porch, and you move back into the living room where the lamp is warm. From there, observe the thought as a guest, not a tyrant. Here is the story that I'm not enough. Here is the story that time is running out. You nod. You breathe. You don't serve those stories dinner. You simply do not abandon yourself while they pass through. That fidelity to yourself is a frequency, and frequencies alter outcomes. You'll notice that attention has texture. When it comes from lack, it's grabby, needing to lock things down, insisting on immediate conclusions. When it comes from wholeness, it's curious, able to hold a question without rushing to an answer. Lack scavenges for certainty. Wholeness listens for coherence. Coherence isn't loud. It's the feeling in the chest when a sentence lands and your shoulders lower without asking permission. It's the sense that a decision is true not because it pleases everyone, but because it doesn't fracture you. Let's make this ordinary. You're walking into a difficult conversation. From lack, attention scans the other person's face for danger and prepares a case. From wholeness, attention remembers your body, feet, and shoes. Air moving at the back of the throat. A spine like a quiet line. You choose shorter sentences that don't need winning. You say what is true and survivable. I can do this part, not that part. Or I need time. Or, this no is how I take care of us both. The other person may still be disappointed, but you'll leave with your field intact, and that integrity will affect the next 3 conversations you have. And the next 3 after that. Attention compounds. There's a line I return to on uncertain days. I will observe from sufficiency. I don't always feel it at first. That's fine. Feeling often follows form. When I sit, breathe down into the belly, and choose that sentence anyway, something subtle shifts. Reality doesn't bend to my will. My will bends to reality's kinder possibilities. I start seeing doorways where only walls stood, not because I manifested a perfect world, but because I stopped collapsing every moment into my oldest narrative. You don't need to diagnose every thought. You don't need to chant yourself into bliss. Start smaller. Before you decide, breathe once you can feel. Before you label, ask what else could be true. Before you react, step back into the observer by the width of one heartbeat. It sounds like almost nothing, but belonging is built out of almost nothings, breath by breath, glance by glance, choosing to look from a place that doesn't betray you. In the end, attention is an act of love, not a sentimental love, a sturdy one, the kind that keeps the light on and the table clear, so what matters can find a seat. Aim that kind of attention at your day, and you will watch ordinary hours collapse into kinder forms. The world may remain imperfect, but you will become a clearer instrument inside it. And life has a way of tuning itself to instruments that stay in tune with themselves. 2. The scarcity loop. How seeking keeps you from finding. There's a quiet fatigue that creeps in when you've tried everything. You've written the affirmations, whispered the prayers, filled page after page with your best intentions. You've done the meditations, the morning routines, the late-night pep talks. And yet, if you listen closely, beneath all the activity, there's a single steady hum. I don't have it yet. That hum is the broadcast your life keeps answering. Think of your inner world like a small radio station heart, breath, and nervous system transmitting a signal into the field around you. Words matter, yes, but the body is the stronger antenna. If your mouth says, I am abundant, while your chest says, I'm scared, the signal that reaches the world is the fear. Reality doesn't punish you for this. It simply matches you. Seeking from lack becomes a loop. You look for proof that you're okay, and your searching confirms that you are not. The more you chase, the farther it feels, like a swimmer exhausting herself by thrashing against the water. You create ripples that keep the shore just out of reach. I learned this the slow way. There were seasons when every practice was a negotiation. If I do this visualization perfectly, maybe life will move. I treated my rituals like levers to pull rather than invitations to become. They worked for a day or two, and then the undertow returned. pulling me back into the old story. Not enough time. Not enough money. Not enough me. I mistook intensity for intimacy. But intensity is often a mask for fear. Intimacy requires presence. Here's the hard and tender truth: trying to have often deepens the identity of the one who doesn't have the nervous system designed to keep you alive. Here's the strain, and concludes, we are in danger. In danger. Your perception narrows. You see only obstacles. You distrust it. You misread pauses as rejection. And the field responds. In kind, people feel your urgency and back up. Opportunities sense your grip and slip past. Not because they are cruel, but because your signal says, I can't hold this yet. Escaping the scarcity loop doesn't ask you to do more. It asks you to shift where you're doing from. Scarcity says, fix the outside so I can feel safe inside. Sufficiency says, tend the inside so I can meet the outside cleanly. That shift is not conceptual, it is biological. Before you craft another plan, soften your jaw, lengthen your exhale until your shoulders drop without permission. Feel your feet in your shoes. These are not trivial motions. They are how you inform your body. We are safe enough to choose differently. Safety widens perception. In widened perception, options reappear. You may protest, but my circumstances are real. Of course they are. Bills need paying. Diagnoses need appointments. Relationships need honest conversations. Regulating your body won't erase reality. It restores your agency within it. From a regulated state, the same set of facts yields a different day. You make the phone call you've avoided without apologizing for existing. You decline the small, draining offer that masquerades as security. You ask for the timeline that respects your health. None of this is magical thinking. It's accurate thinking returning to a system that has stopped bracing. Notice the subtle ways the seeking identity tries to keep itself in business. It asks for bigger techniques, longer meditations, more precise scripts, stricter routines. There's nothing wrong with structure, but more technique cannot compensate for a mismatched state. If the engine is revving and not enough, any road you take will feel like proof that you're late. Instead of adding rituals, try transforming a few you already have into state-first practices. Drink the glass of water as if you were telling your cells, we have what we need now. Make the bed as if you were preparing a room for someone you respect, your future self. Sit for 3 minutes not to achieve enlightenment, but to let the static settle so you can hear the next honest step without begging the future to answer. The loop also loves evidence. It collects stories of how it never works out, files them neatly, and presents them whenever hope knocks. Meet this part gently. You won't out-argue it, but you can bore it. Give it fewer dramatic swings to feed on baitings. Choose one small promise you can keep daily, replying to messages from calm, walking around the block before deciding, speaking the boundary in a single clean sentence. Kept promises accumulate into a new identity, the person who can be with life without chasing it. The field reads that steadiness and begins to return it. Relationships reveal the loop quickly. From scarcity, you over-explain to be understood, overgive to be kept, overstay to avoid loss. From sufficiency, you let your no be simple and your yes be sustainable. You don't volunteer your peace as payment for belonging. Some dynamics will loosen or leave. Let them. You aren't failing at love. You're graduating from fear. The space that opens isn't emptiness. It's capacity, room for connections that don't require self-betrayal to survive. Money reveals it. 2. When having defines being, every purchase is a referendum on worth. From sufficiency, money becomes a tool with clear assignments, stability, generosity, nourishment, rather than a scorecard you can never win. You may find that wealth shows up first as clarity, seeing what costs you more than it pays, what you can release, what you can simplify, so your attention returns to doing work that actually fits. Attention is the most valuable currency in the room. Where it rests, life compounds. If you want a simple doorway out of the loop, try this sequence whenever you catch yourself chasing. Feel your body, lengthen your exhale. Name the story "I must hurry," or "I'll miss everything." Thank the story for trying to protect you. Then ask, what is the next truthful action I can take without abandoning myself? Do that one thing. And then pause. Not because you're lazy, but because you're letting your system register a new pattern action from enoughness, not from alarm. Over time, you'll recognize the sound of your old engine, the whine of urgency, the grab for guarantees, and you'll choose a different ignition. You'll begin to live as someone who doesn't need to prove tomorrow to deserve today. Opportunities will still require courage, but not contortion. Doors will still need knocking, but your hand will be steady. The loop loses power, not when life gives you everything, but when you stop negotiating your being for the promise of having being. And then the oddest, gentlest thing happens. What you were seeking begins to seek you. Not because you mastered a trick, but because you became compatible, less like a magnet frantically scraping the floor, more like a clear note that draws its harmony from the room. The practices you keep will feel lighter. Your prayers will sound less like emergency broadcasts and more like invitations. And your life, hearing the new frequency, will start to answer with the calm authority of something that was always on its way. 3. Practicing the state shift, from doing to being. There is a way to live where effort stops scraping at life and begins to flow with it. It doesn't arrive through a bigger plan or a louder affirmation. It begins with a posture so simple that the mind is tempted to dismiss it. Take one gentle step back inside yourself, just a few inches behind the eyes, and breathe in a way the body can actually feel. In that small retreat, you find a quiet room between thoughts. That room is not empty. It is home. From there, whisper, "I observe from wholeness." You don't have to feel holy or enlightened. You only have to remain. This is the pivot from doing to being. Doing tries to push reality into place. Being lets reality recognize you. When you are the observer, you're not passive, you are precise. The nervous system softens its grip. The breath lengthens of its own accord. And your attention, once scattered like birds, startled from a tree, returns to the branch. Coherence forms. In coherence, the next step appears, without being wrestled into view. Start with the body, because the body is the first truth teller. Imagine sitting a half step behind your eyes, as if your mind were a porch and you moved into the lamplit room just inside. Let your gaze be soft, not fixed. Notice the weight of your tongue, the warmth behind the sternum, the way your ribs widen when you stop auditioning for the future. Don't interrogate the moment. Host it. When a thought knocks, you're late. You're behind. Do more. Open the door. Nod. And let it pass through the house without rearranging the furniture. What you are practicing is not control. It is non-abandonment. You are refusing to leave yourself for the sake of a story. Breath is your most honest instrument. Let it be round. Not sharp, full. Not forced. Inhale until the shoulders drop on their own. Pause where the air feels weightless. Exhale, like you're setting down a bag you carried too long. One breath like this is a small miracle. 3 is a real change of weather. You're telling your system, we are safe enough to choose. Choices made from safety are rarely desperate. They are quieter, cleaner, more accurate. If the mind demands metrics, how will we know it's working? Offer it something. It can trust sensations. Being is somatic. Notice the softening along the jaw. Notice heat in the hands. Notice the tiny spread at the base of the ribs. These are not decorations to the practice. They are the practice. When the body registers wholeness, the field around you reads available instead of alarmed. Available fields attract appropriate doors. You don't need a monastery. Practice in ordinary thresholds before you open your inbox. Rest behind the eyes for one breath. While the kettle warms, place a hand on the chest and find the room between thoughts. At a red light, let the exhale grow longer than the inhale. And here, I observe from wholeness. Let these moments be unspectacular on purpose. Spectacle keeps the ego awake. Rhythm teaches the soul. Here is what begins to shift when you are. Not just do time changes texture. The same hour feels wider because you're not spending half of it rehearsing catastrophe. You complete one clean task rather than scattering your attention across 10. Completion is a kind of prayer. It tells your field, I can carry what I start. Relationships recalibrate. The observer doesn't perform to be kept. You speak shorter sentences that don't need a jury. I can do this part. Not that part. Tomorrow works. Tonight doesn't. Love grows when the truth is spoken at a speed the body can bear. Work finds proportion. Instead of sprinting because panic says now or never, you move because the next step is here. You stop auditioning for rooms that require your self-erasure and start building rooms where your breath can stay. On days when the mind insists on feeling something special, be tender and a little stubborn. The goal is not a mystical state. It's compatibility to become compatible with the life you're asking for. Compatibility is built from thousands of unremarkable reunions with yourself, the breath you felt before you replied, the pause you kept instead of promising, the dish you washed with both hands present, in the walk you took so your spine could remember its line. Each small return strengthens a frequency that does the heavy lifting for you. I know the temptation to perform the observer, turning stillness into an achievement, a new badge to polish. Gently decline that. If you notice yourself judging the practice, I'm doing it wrong. I should be calmer by now. Smile at the judge. He's trying to help, in the only way he knows, by measuring, thank him, and carry on. The nervous system learns through kind repetition, not verdicts. You will also meet the echo of urgency. It will claim that if you stop pushing, everything will fall apart. Test this softly. For one conversation, slow your pace by 10%. For one decision, move it to after a walk. For 1 hour, reply from a regulated body or not at all. Watch how often the imagined disaster doesn't occur. The world rarely punishes coherence. It tends to reorganize around it. When emotion swells, don't exile it. Sit with the feeling like you would sit with a child who had a bad dream close. Quiet, uncomplicated. Let grief wash. Let anger heat and cool. Let joy land without bargaining for it to stay. Observing from wholeness doesn't mute emotion, it stewards it. You are learning to carry fire without burning the house. If you want a simple sequence you can trust when things get loud, use this. Feel feet in shoes. Tongue resting, shoulders heavy. Breathe, inhale fully. Pause. Exhale longer than you inhaled. Name. The story says hurry. My body says stay. Choose speak or act with a sentence you can live with tomorrow. Return, whisper. I observe from wholeness. Repeat as needed. Do not underestimate how ordinary this is. The extraordinary sneaks in through doors you keep open with ordinary hinges. Over time, you'll notice clarity arriving without interrogation, opportunities pacing themselves to your capacity, and a kind of grounded optimism that doesn't require constant pep talks. You won't need to hold the future in a chokehold. You'll be able to host it. If you need an image to close, imagine your life as a room filled with music. Doing is trying to conduct every instrument by force. Being is tuning your own instrument so purely that the orchestra naturally adjusts. Same room, different posture. One exhausts, the other harmonizes. So today, as you move through tasks and conversations, keep returning 2 inches behind the eyes. One breath wider than anxiety. One sentence truer than habit. Don't rush your arrival. Arrive. Again and again. The field will feel you. And when it does, you'll discover that the door you were pushing on was never locked. It was waiting for the sound of you being. 4. Architecting attention designing. An environment for your frequency. Frequency doesn't float in empty air. It settles into rooms, shelves, screens, doorways. It borrows the texture of your desk and the tempo of your calendar. If you've ever felt unusually calm in a tidy kitchen at dawn, or strangely scattered in a loud, overstuffed room, you've already met this truth. Environment is the architect of attention. Clear space, clear attention, clear signal. I learned this the unglamorous way on evenings, when my desk had become a small museum of postponed decisions. The more I tried to focus, the more my eyes argued with me. A receipt, asking to be filed. A cable begging for a home. A mug rehearsing yesterday's conversation. My mind wasn't weak. My space was loud. When I finally cleared a single square of desk and placed the one page I needed in the center, something in my chest exhaled. The work didn't get easier. I became available to it. Designing for frequency isn't about perfection. It's about reducing friction between who you are and what you're here to do. Start with sightlines. What do your eyes land on when you sit, wake, or return from a break? If the first thing you meet is clutter, your attention will spend its courage before the real task begins. Give your gaze a place to rest, a clean surface, a small plant, a window with sky. Let the room offer your nervous system a sentence before you've said a word. Here, you can breathe. Light is a language your body reads fluently. You don't need designer lamps to speak it. Pull your chair into the patch of morning sun for the first email. Angle your desk so your eyes meet daylight instead of a wall. Even a small shift changes the body's forecast. Harsh fluorescent glare says, endure. Gentle, directional light says, attend. When the day turns, dim the room in layers rather than all at once. Let evening be evening. Attention likes honest weather. Sound writes invisible graffiti on your field. Notice the hums. You've stopped noticing the fan, the street, the notifications that pretend to be urgent. Silence what you can. For what you can't, choose sounds that keep the breath round. Soft, instrumental music. Rain that doesn't demand a mood. You're not curating an aesthetic. You're setting a metronome for your mind. The digital world is a room. 2. Many of us live in a house where every door opens to a crowd. If your phone is the noisiest tenant, give it a bedroom. Park it across the room during focused work. Let your home screen be a blank field instead of a carnival. One row of essentials. Nothing that sells you urgency. Muted notifications are not self-denial. They are frequency hygiene. If an app is designed to keep you grazing, put it in a folder called Later and visit on purpose or not at all. Your attention is a scarce mineral. Spend it where your life compounds. Give yourself white space on the calendar, the way a musician gives a song rests. Rests make music possible. If every hour is colonized, the nervous system never returns to baseline. Your signal becomes static. Even when your intentions are beautiful, protect small pockets where nothing is asked of you. Don't fill them when relief arrives. Let relief do its work. Consider what your hands touch. Texture matters more than we admit. A smooth pen that doesn't scratch. A chair that supports without scolding. A mug with the right weight. These are not luxuries. They are agreements with your body. When the tools of your day stop arguing, your attention stops bleeding. Scent can be a gentle anchor, not as a performance, but as a cue. A drop of something clean at the start of focused work. The smell of soap during a reset. Fresh air from a cracked window. These are messages to your older brain. We are here now. This is safe. You can soften and still be strong. Strong attention grows in soft bodies. Then there's the diet of information. We talk about food as if it's the only intake that matters. What you scroll is nutrition. 2. If your feeds are a drip of outrage and comparison, your field will carry those residues into rooms that deserve your best. Trim generously. Follow accounts that widen your breath. Unfollow what shrinks you, not because you're fragile, but because your frequency is a garden, and gardens don't thrive on exhaust. Create threshold rituals, tiny, repeatable acts that tell your system a scene has changed. Before work, clear one surface. Set a timer for 25 honest minutes. Breathe once you can feel. After work, close the laptop. Touch the doorframe as you leave the room. Step outside for 60 seconds of sky. At bed, dim a single lamp. Put the phone to bed in another room. Read 3 pages you don't need to remember. Rituals are how environments speak in verbs. Leave a landing pad for the new. Keep one drawer empty on purpose. Keep one day each month with nothing scheduled except listening. Success often arrives looking for a place to sit. If every drawer is full and every hour spoken for, goodness perches on the edge and flies away. An empty drawer is not wasted space. It's hospitality. You will be tempted to overhaul everything. Don't. Overhauls are a form of delay, dressed as ambition. Make one small, faithful change, and let your nervous system enjoy the difference. Clear the nightstand. Move the trash can where you'll actually use it. Label the one folder you always avoid. Put a gentle lamp where you tense the most. Changes that seem too small to matter are exactly the ones that build trust. Trust is frequency's favorite soil. Relationships live in environments. 2. A boundary is spatial architecture for your heart. Choose where conversations happen at a table, not in passing, in daylight, not at the edge of sleep. Choose how long they last, 45 focused minutes instead of 2 resentful hours. Choose when you are reachable and make that visible. You are not closing doors. You are building doorframes so you can keep entering without breaking yourself to fit. Perhaps the most radical design principle is simplicity with mercy. You are not auditioning for a magazine spread. A single clear counter beats a warehouse of perfect containers. A quiet corner beats a flawless office you rarely enter. Design for the person you are at 7 p.m. on a tired Wednesday, not the superhero you imagine on Monday morning. If the system collapses when you're human, it's not a system, it's a fantasy. One image to keep a lighthouse. It doesn't chase ships. It keeps its glass clean, its lamp trimmed, its timetable faithful. Because it is consistent, the sea knows how to find it. Your environment can be that lighthouse for your attention, a steady architecture that helps your signal stay true when weather changes. In the end, this is the heart of it. You shape your rooms so your rooms can shape your state. Not to control life, but to cooperate with it. Not to impress anyone, but to become more available to what is already trying to meet you. Clear space, honest light, gentle sound, white time, tools that don't fight, boundaries that breathe. When these are in place, you don't have to beg your attention to behave. It comes home on its own, like a river that no longer tries to run uphill. And in that homecoming, your frequency speaks clearly, quiet, coherent, strong enough to be heard, without raising its voice. 5. From effort to coherence. When life slides into place, there is a quiet point in the journey where your mind stops arguing with your heart, and your body stops paying the price for their disagreement. Thoughts unclench. Feelings stop shouting to be heard. Identity, who you say you are when no one is looking, steps forward with a steadier voice. In that alignment, your field becomes coherent. You don't push reality anymore. You become compatible with it. Coherence isn't loud. It doesn't need a spotlight. It announces itself the way a well-tuned instrument changes the whole room. Nothing dramatic. But suddenly everyone can hear the melody. You find yourself choosing words that don't require cleanup later. You wake before the alarm, and your breath is already calm. You say yes and mean it. Say no and stand by it. And your body doesn't brace for the backlash it used to fear. The world responds not because you forced it to build, but because you finally sent a single, clean signal. For years, many of us run our lives like a committee meeting where thought, feeling, and identity vote against each other. The mind wants security. The heart wants aliveness. And the old self wants to be liked enough to avoid both risk and depth. That committee exhausts the nervous system. Coherence dissolves the committee. It gives each part its job. The mind plans. The heart chooses. The body verifies. When all three say the same thing, reality doesn't have to guess. Imagine a river after the floodwaters recede. The banks are the same, but the current is readable again. That is coherence. It doesn't mean life stops offering resistance. It means resistance stops defining you. A difficult email arrives, and you meet it with one honest paragraph instead of 6 defensive ones. A tempting detour appears, and you notice the tightness it brings. Your feet decline without drama. A truly right opening shows up and your system doesn't flinch because the version of you who can hold it is already in the room. Magnetism is often misunderstood as charisma or volume. The real magnetism is consistency, the quiet congruence between your breath, your words, and your walk. Nature reads that congruence quickly. People do, too. They relax around you because you relax around yourself. Doors open because you no longer approach them with the tremor of someone trying to convince a bouncer. You arrive like a key that fits. This shift is practical. In work, coherence looks like completing one true task with full presence, instead of scattering yourself across 10. Your output may not spike immediately, but the quality of what you make starts to carry its own weight. The project moves because you're not dragging it with the rope of panic. In relationships, coherence sounds like shorter sentences that don't audition. This is what I can offer. This is what I need. People who can meet you step closer. Those who require your self-betrayal drift without a fight. Even money changes tone. Instead of chasing it to prove worth, you assign it tasks from a grounded center: stability, generosity, nourishment, and your decisions stop leaking anxiety. How do you get here? Not by straining harder, but by reducing the static. Static is the gap between what you say and what you feel, between what you promise and what you can sustain, between who you are and who you perform. Each time you close a gap, even a small one, your field clears. You answer the text tomorrow instead of now, because now you would be resentful. You decline a glittering opportunity that would cost your sleep. You forgive a debt to your old self, the one who agreed out of fear by making a new agreement you can keep. These aren't heroic acts. They are gentle precisions. Coherence loves precision. The body is both the instrument and the meter. When you move toward coherence, the body tells you, with unmistakable signals, shoulders lower without being asked. The jaw unhooks. The breath thickens in the belly. When you move away from it, your body warns you just as clearly: a flutter in the chest, heat in the face, a sudden need to explain. Learn these languages. They will save you days you used to lose. There is a paradox worth trusting. The less you try to impress, the more you begin to express. Coherent presence is expression, your truth, traveling cleanly through your voice, your calendar, your home, your bank account. This is not austerity. It is orientation. You arrange your life so your values can breathe: a desk that invites attention, a schedule with rest, like a musician's rests, a boundary that is a doorframe instead of a wall. These are not aesthetic choices. They are structural supports for a frequency that wants to stay. You might worry that coherence will make you rigid. It won't. True coherence is supple. It bends without breaking, like bamboo in wind, because you're no longer defending a persona. You can adapt without losing yourself. Feedback refines you instead of shaming you. Delay becomes pacing rather than punishment. Even failure loses its teeth. It becomes information you can use rather than a verdict on your worth. If you need a way to practice in real time, try this small sequence. Whenever you feel the old push rising, feel your feet. Lengthen your exhale until the shoulders drop by themselves. Ask one question, out loud, if you can. What is the response I can live with tomorrow? Choose that response. Even if it's softer than your pride prefers or slower than your fear demands, then leave it alone. Coherence doesn't obsess. It trusts the field to carry its clean signal farther than force ever could. One day you'll notice that doors aren't slamming or swinging wildly anymore. They're simply opening when you arrive. Not because you conquered them, but because you match the rooms you enter. And when life slides into place like that, it doesn't feel like a trick. It feels like a homecoming, the quiet recognition that you don't have to hustle for what harmonizes with you. You meet the world as someone whole, and the world relieved can finally meet you back. 6. The neuroscience of scarcity. Teaching the body it is safe to bloom. The brain was built to keep you alive before it was ever asked to make you happy. When life feels uncertain, it does what good guardians do. It narrows your focus to threats, speeds your heart, and prepares your muscles to fight and flee or freeze. Useful in a crisis, exhausting as a lifestyle. If you've lived through loss, instability, or long seasons of grinding pressure, your nervous system can start to treat ordinary moments like emergencies. Scarcity isn't only a number in a bank account, it's a state, a chemistry, where the body believes there is not enough time, love, space, or safety. From that state, control looks like wisdom, but control is just fear in a nicer suit. Here's the tender, turning your brain's higher functions perspective. Patience. Creativity come online when your body feels safe, not when you tell it to be safe. When the heart rate eases, when the breath deepens, when muscles release their guard. The prefrontal cortex, the part that plans, empathizes, and chooses, has oxygen to work. Scarcity shrinks your world to a keyhole. Safety opens a window. Under safety, the same facts rearrange into more generous options. Regulation is the bridge. Regulation doesn't mean perfect calm. It means recovering your center faithfully enough that your choices are made by today's self, not yesterday's alarm. It begins with simple biology: breath. Long exhales nudge the nervous system toward the rest and digest setting. Try a quiet pattern. Inhale through the nose for a count of 4. Pause for 2. Exhale for 6 or 8. Do this 5 or 6 rounds. You're not chasing a mystical state. You're sending a memo to your body: we are not in a chase. When the body believes that memo, attention widens. You stop scanning for danger and start noticing help. Heart rhythm, coherent breathing, about 5 or 6 breaths per minute, encourages a steadier heart rhythm, which the brain interprets as we can think again. The benefit isn't only during the practice, it lingers, like residual warmth, after you step away from the fire. Posture and gaze. Survival curls us forward and narrows our vision. Gently lift the breastbone. Let the shoulders settle, and soften your eyes to take in more of the room. A wider visual field tells older parts of the brain the perimeter is clear. This is not pretend. It's physics of perception. Orientation. When shaken, look around slowly and name 3 ordinary anchors: the window, the cup, the plant. Touch one object. Feel its texture, its temperature. Orientation reminds the system, this is where we are. Not back there where the hurt happened. Sensation before story. Scarcity loves arguments. It wants to debate worth and destiny. Skip the debate. Scan the body instead. Jaw, throat, chest, belly. Where is it tight? Breathe there without commentary. Sensations metabolize faster than narratives. You might think, this is too simple for my complicated life. I understand. But complicated lives are rebuilt on simple, repeatable signals. 5 honest breaths before you reply. 2 minutes of standing in morning light. Walking around the block before you decide. Drinking water like it matters. These are not small, silly chores. They are the grammar of safety. Safety is the soil where new choices grow. Trauma capital T, or the slow drip kind, teaches the body that vigilance equals survival. So when you finally slow down, a part of you may panic. If I relax, it will all fall apart. Be kind to that part. It kept you alive. Now let it retire one shift at a time. Tell it what you will do. Instead of bracing, I will breathe and still make the call. I will pause and still send the invoice. I will rest and still keep my word. The combination calm with action rewires trust faster than calm alone. Relationships can either soothe or inflame scarcity. From alarm, we over-explain, over-give, overstay. From regulation, boundaries become simpler. I can do this part, not that part. Tomorrow, not tonight. Yes, with this condition, you will feel wobbly at first, as if saying less is reckless. Stay with it. The people who can meet you will adjust. Those who required your self-erasure will drift. That drift is not abandonment. It is your nervous system saving the energy it needs to bloom. Work shifts. 2. Scarcity makes you scatter 10 tabs open. None completed. Each half-task proof that you're behind. Regulation invites single-task presence. Finish one meaningful thing. Let your body experience completion. Completion is anti-scarcity. It teaches your system the sentence. We follow through. The more often you feel that truth, the less you need adrenaline to start. Money becomes clearer from a regulated state. Panic spends to soothe or hoards to control. Presence assigns. Give every dollar a job stability. Nourishment. Generosity. Learning. You may be surprised how enough begins as clarity before it becomes quantity. Clarity reduces waste. Less waste eases nerves. Easier nerves make better decisions. Better decisions change numbers. The loop reverses. Sleep is not a luxury here. It is nightly neurochemistry memory consolidates. Stress hormones. Recalibrate. The amygdala quiets. Guard a wind-down ritual like medicine. Dim one lamp. Close screens. Let the room cool. Read 3 forgiving pages. If sleep resists you, meet dawn kindly. Morning light on the eyes anchors your clock. A short walk teaches your body today has begun, and you are allowed to enter it slowly. If you want a brief protocol for loud days, try this. Arrive. Feet on floor. Name. 5 things you see. Breathe. 4 in. 2. Hold. 6 to 8 out 5 rounds. Soften. Unclench the jaw. Drop the shoulders on purpose. Ask, what is one truthful action I can take without abandoning myself? Act. Do just that. Then pause for one more breath, so your system registers the change. Over weeks, something steady replaces the old edge. The mind is still sharp, but less suspicious. Emotions still move, but they don't seize the wheel. Your body stops confusing pace with purpose, and you begin to notice how often life cooperates when you stop negotiating your safety from the outside only. Scarcity's favorite lie is that you must choose between surviving and blossoming. Regulation reveals the third way: survive, then bloom. By teaching the body, it is safe enough to grow. Long breath by long breath. Slower heart by slower heart. You invite the brain to widen the frame. In the wider frame, there is room for honest work, tender love, clean boundaries, and the kind of opportunities that don't demand you fracture yourself to hold them. You are not behind. Your system is learning a new language. Speak it in small, Faithful syllables, warm light, round breath, single task, clear no, early bed. And watch as the chemistry of scarcity gives way to the biology of trust. From trust, the future stops shouting. It begins to speak in a voice your body recognizes calm. Capacios. Here. 7. Receive and keep instead of chase and prove. There is a dignity that arrives when you stop running. Not because life has handed you everything, but because you've remembered who is doing the asking. From the observer's seat, you are no longer auditioning for your own future. You are available to it. What comes begins to come to the right person without the costume changes and the breathless sprint. And then a quieter skill becomes sacred, not grabbing, not performing, but receiving and keeping. Receiving is not passivity. It is skilled openness. Think of a musician who has trained long enough to let the note land without straining for it. The throat is open. The chest is soft. The posture is precise. The sound arrives because the body can hold it. Opportunity works the same way. Chasing shouts, see me. Proving pleads. Believe me, receiving says. I'm here. Congruent. Ready. The field recognizes that congruence faster than any speech. Start small, because small is where truth likes to practice. When a kind word comes, notice how quickly you reach for the self-dismissal. It was nothing. Anyone could have done it. I just got lucky. That habit looks humble. It's often fear in a softer shirt. Try this instead. Let the compliment land long enough to change your posture. Breathe once. Feel the warmth in your chest. And answer with a simple, thank you. You are not inflating yourself. You are letting goodness register. What registers becomes easier to keep. Receiving opportunity is similar. A door opens a few inches. The chase reflex lunges over-promising, over-explaining, sprinting to prove you deserve the opening. The observer doesn't grab the handle with both hands. You step through at the pace your system can sustain. You ask one clear question. You offer one clean sentence about how you work. You let the room meet you, not the performance of you. The right rooms prefer your steadiness to your fireworks. Money. 2. Changes tone here. In chase and prove, money is either a verdict you fear or a costume you wear to be chosen. In receive and keep, money is a tool with assignments. Give each dollar a job, stability, nourishment, learning, generosity, and your nervous system relaxes into stewardship. You are not trying to impress the future. You are quietly funding a present you can live in. Keeping is not hoarding. It is caring for what you ask to hold. And we must talk about capacity. Receiving without keeping is a spike and crash pattern. Big day, bigger hangover. What makes gain durable is not grip. It is frequency maintenance. Your rituals, sleep you honor. Food that supports. Pauses that reset. Space that breathes. Boundaries that remain kind are how you teach the body that goodness can stay without demanding a sacrifice. The win is not only that something arrived, it's that your system stayed intact when it did. Here's a gentle sequence I return to whenever something good lands. Acknowledge the arrival. One breath you can feel. This is here. Anchor it in the body. Notice where the yes lives: sternum, throat, belly, and rest. Attention there for 10 seconds. Assign it a role. Ask, what is this for? Give the opportunity or money or praise, a clear task that fits your values. Protect the conditions. Keep the boring rituals. Don't trade sleep for a victory lap. Don't trade boundaries for momentum. Proceed at human speed. Choose the next step you can take without abandoning yourself. Receiving may also provoke old alarms. If I soften, I'll lose it. If I don't hustle, it will disappear. Thank the alarm for keeping you alive. Then pair calm with action. Send the reply from a full breath. Draft the plan at a sustainable pace. Share the credit where your soul wants to be generous. Let the proof of your readiness be your congruence, not your volume. Relationships are a tender proving ground for this shift. In chase and prove, love becomes a stage, over-giving to be kept, over-explaining to be understood, apologizing for needs, so you won't be left. In receive and keep, you let love arrive without negotiating your value. You practice short, survivable truths. This works for me. That doesn't. Tomorrow is available. Tonight is not. I care, and I'm not able to take that on. The bonds that thrive in this air are the ones that don't require your self-cancellation to continue. Keeping love means keeping you inside love. Your work will feel different. 2. When you receive a role or a client that fits, resist the temptation to double your pace to prove the choice was right. Fit proves itself. Choose depth over dazzle, cadence over clamor. Finish one meaningful thing each day. Completion tells your field, we can carry what we catch. That message makes tomorrow's keeping easier than today's catching ever was. And yes, sometimes you'll wobble. You'll overbook after a win. You'll underprice after a compliment. You'll let an old voice talk you into proving again. Don't turn the wobble into a verdict. Repair is part of receiving. Sleep, drink water, name the pattern without shaming yourself. Choose the next honest no, the next clean yes, the next unhurried email. Keeping grows through gentle repetition, not through dramatic vows. One image that helps a lighthouse, it doesn't sprint down the shore to drag ships home. It keeps its lens clean, its lamp trimmed, its timetable faithful. Because it is consistent, the sea knows how to find it. Receiving is becoming a lighthouse to your own life. Keeping is tending the light after the harbor fills. Another a garden. You don't yank fruit to prove it's ripe. You cultivate soil, water regularly, prune tenderly, and let ripening come forward. When harvest arrives, you don't eat everything at once. You share, store, and save seed. Chase eats, keep stewards. Stewardship is how success becomes season, not event. If you want a closing practice, try this today. When something small but good appears, a kind sentence, a modest check, a quiet moment of ease. Stop for one breath. Place a hand on your chest. Say, I receive this. I will keep it kindly. Decide one tiny action that honors the gift. A thank you note. A line in your budget. 5 minutes of stillness before moving on. Repeat until your nervous system believes you. You'll know it's working when good things stop feeling suspicious and start feeling appropriate. Not flashy appropriate. Your calendar fits. Your rooms breathe. Your words don't need a courtroom. The win is not how loudly life arrives. It's how gently it stays. In the end, receive and keep is a relationship with yourself. It is the choice, again and again, to be the kind of home your blessings can live in. When you practice that, opportunities no longer feel like rare animals you must chase across a dark field. They become daytime birds that return to the window. You open steady, familiar, and content to stay because the room is ready. 8. Living as if and encoding emotion. Let the future recognize you. There is a kind of honesty that doesn't depend on evidence. It begins as a feeling you allow into the room before the facts arrive. A soft certainty that says, if I were already where I'm going, this is how my body would breathe. That is the heart of living, as if it isn't pretending, it isn't performing. It is emotional encoding, teaching your nervous system the climate of the life you are choosing, so that life can recognize you when it comes to the door. Think of emotion as a passcode, not a performance. Gratitude, peace, kindness, these are not decorations. They are frequencies the field can read. When you hold them sincerely, not theatrically, your days begin to organize around them. Gratitude clears the fog from what's already here. Peace widens the hallway, so choices don't collide. Kindness changes the way power moves through your hands. One by one, these states compose a signature your future knows by heart. The mistake many of us make is to treat as if like a costume change. We paste a smile over a braced jaw. We speak shiny words while the breath stays short. The field doesn't fall for it, and neither do we. Living as if is lighter, quieter. It sounds like this: if abundance were already true, what tiny action would I take next from calm, not from clutching? If love were already safe, how would this boundary sound? Not a speech, just one sentence I could live with tomorrow. If my work already fit, how would I set up this hour so it can do its work on me too? The answers are almost always smaller than the ego prefers and more powerful than the ego believes. To encode emotion, we begin in the body. Before you reach for the future, reach for your ribcage. Let the inhale round enough to drop your shoulders without asking permission. Pause in that weightless place where breath turns. Exhale, like you are setting something down. Now, invite a single feeling, no more than one, to come forward. Gratitude tends to arrive as warmth under the sternum, peace as a widening behind the eyes, kindness as a softening in the throat and hands. Don't amplify it. Don't narrate it. Let it be small and real. 10 honest seconds are better than a minute of acting. Then, touch the ordinary. Pour water as if you were hydrating a life you already respect. Fold one shirt as if your future self would wear it tomorrow. Answer an email at the pace of sufficiency instead of the pace of panic. These are not quaint affectations. They are rehearsals of reality. The nervous system learns by repetition. Repeated states become traits. Traits become timelines, the lived, felt pattern that your days follow without effort. There will be mornings when gratitude feels far away, when peace is a rumor, when kindness sounds like something you owe everyone but yourself. On those days, do not force a smile. Choose the smallest true gesture that matches the life you're becoming. Gratitude might be the way sunlight hits a cup, and nothing more. Peace might be 2 slow breaths before you speak. Kindness might be a gentler tone with your own name. True is the only size that keeps. You might worry that as if will make you complacent, that if you feel good now, you'll lose your edge. The opposite happens. When your body is no longer running on emergency fuel, it becomes available for precision. You stop chasing 10 things and do the one thing that carries the others. You stop filling silence with proof and let your work speak in complete sentences. The right kind of satisfaction doesn't dull your life. It steadies your hand. Money is a clear test of this practice. From scarcity, you click buy to quiet a feeling or clutch every dollar to outrun a fear. From encoded sufficiency, you assign your resources tasks that match your values. You choose one clean investment in your craft, one kind generosity that doesn't injure tomorrow, one simple pleasure that reminds your body it's safe to enjoy. You are not pretending to be wealthy. You are living as if stewardship were already your native language. Stewardship attracts responsibility. Responsibility attracts right-sized opportunities. The timeline answers. Relationships respond. 2. Instead of auditioning, you over-explain to be kept, over-give to be chosen. You interact as if love is a meeting, not a test. Your sentences get shorter and truer. I can do Tuesday. I need quiet tonight. I care. And that doesn't work for me. Peace makes room for honesty. Kindness makes honesty bearable. You're not acting like someone with perfect boundaries. You're sounding like someone whose nervous system trusts that truth doesn't end. Love it refines it. What about grief? Anger? Fear, the weather we don't ask for but sometimes must live in. Emotional encoding doesn't exile difficult states. It stewards them. Grief held with gentleness becomes reverence. Anger carried through the breath becomes clarity instead of combustion. Fear met in the body, feet on ground, gaze softened. Exhale, lengthen shrinks to its right size, and stops dictating the story. The passcode is not always happy. It is always honest. Then gently directed. Here's a small, repeatable sequence for days. When you want your field to remember the future you're choosing, stand at a window or step outside. Let your eyes rest on something alive: tree, sky, the smallest patch of green. Breathe until your shoulders lower. Name quietly the feeling that belongs to your chosen life: gratitude, steadiness, kindness. Invite one detail that proves it now: a warm mug in your hand, a chair that holds your weight, a friend's text waiting without demand. Let the detail light the feeling for 10 seconds. Then take one action you would take if that feeling were already your baseline. Send the email with clean edges. Put $5 where the future can find it. Cancel the plan that costs your breath. Close your eyes for 2 minutes before the next thing. Mark the moment by whispering, as if, because I am becoming. Move on. Over weeks, you'll notice time behaving differently. The life you asked for stops arriving as a once-in-a-while visitor and starts sounding like a language you speak without translating. You won't need to force momentum. It will appear as a natural side effect of coherence. Doors will still require knocking, but your hand will be steady. People will still be human, but your nervous system won't bargain away your truth to keep the peace. As if becomes less of a technique and more of a temperament, an inner climate that favors the weather you want to live under. If you need an image to carry into the rest of your day, picture a tuning fork. You don't hit it harder to make it sing longer. You strike it lightly and let the note fill the room. Emotional encoding is that note. Gratitude as the strike, peace as the sustain, kindness as the resonance that touches every object quietly. Keep sounding the note in ways so ordinary they would never make a highlight reel. The room will remember. The future will, too. And if doubt whispers that this is naive, smile at it. Doubt has kept many of us alive. It just isn't good at building homes. You are not pretending the house is finished. You are laying floors your feet can trust. One feeling at a time. Live as if, not to escape the present, but to educate it, so when your life knocks, it finds you already speaking its dialect. Grateful, calm, kind. 9. Creative latency. Honoring the ripening rhythm of the seed. There is a kindness built into life that our hurry rarely understands. In the quantum world and in our kitchens, signals are sent, and forms appear after, not during the sending. A particle resolves only when conditions align. Dough rises only when warmth, yeast, time, and patience keep company. Gardens don't bloom because we stare at them. They bloom because the soil stays tended while roots work in the dark. This interval, the stretch between intention and incarnation, is what I call creative latency. It is not a void. It is a womb. Most of us were trained to distrust this interval. If we can't see progress, we assume there isn't any. If we can't measure it, we imagine nothing's moving. So we push, we prod, we scrap the recipe and start over. And in the noise, we disturb what was quietly knitting itself together. I have done this more times than I can count, abandoning a good path because it refused to perform on my timeline. Each time, life answered, with the same gentle correction. Stay long enough for ripening to show its face. Latency is not laziness. It is integration. You encoded a new frequency: gratitude instead of grasping, steadiness instead of speed. Now the body, the calendar, the relationships, and the work must reorganize around that note. This takes cycles. The nervous system learns safety in repetitions, not declarations. Muscles learn new form in sets and rest, not in one heroic strain. Even the most loving decisions need a few ordinary Tuesdays to prove they can hold. When you can't yet see the outcome, measure the fidelity. Did I keep the breath before I replied? Did I choose the next honest step instead of the performative leap? Did I protect the white space that keeps my signal clean? Fidelity is progress wearing humble clothes. Think of the not yet as a fermentation stage. Bread made without proofing is dense. Wine rushed to bottle is sharp. Ideas forced into the world before they're ready. Ask the audience to finish cooking them for us. The observer's task is to maintain conditions, while the unseen chemistry happens: warmth without scorching, moisture without flood, time without neglect. In human terms, keep the rituals that regulate you. Keep the room clear where the work sits. Keep the single true task moving forward, while you let the grand reveal arrive on its own feet. There's a biological mercy here. When you honor latency, you trade adrenaline for pace. The heart stops mistaking speed for meaning. Sleep returns as a collaborator. You can hear thin signals, those subtle nudges that are drowned out when you're sprinting. Latency makes you precisa. You stop throwing every ingredient at the pot and start seasoning to taste. But latency will test you. Old fear will visit dressed as reason. If it hasn't happened by now, it won't. If I don't push, I'll miss my chance. If I don't say yes to this almost fit, the real thing may never come. Smile at this voice. It once kept you alive. Then answer with a calmer truth. Seeds know their season. My job is soil, water, light, the simple fidelities that make arrival possible. Choosing patience here is not passivity. It is competence at the level of timing. How do we live this without drifting into apathy? By pairing waiting with micro movements that keep the signal warm. A single paragraph on the project, even when the book feels far. One message to the person you're building with, even when the partnership is only a sketch. $10 move toward the future you're funding. Even when the numbers feel small, these acts are not symbolic, they're somatic. They tell your body, we're moving, which keeps despair from narrating the silence. Movement at a human scale invites clarity to keep up. Relationships ripen. 2. During latency, resist the urge to force a definitional conversation, simply to quiet your nerves. Speak one true thing you can stand in tomorrow. Then let time reveal whether the bond can carry that truth. Honest pacing is a love language. It keeps both nervous systems from staging a courtroom they don't need. Work will tempt you to fill the quiet with almost so you can feel busy. Be tender and exacting. Decline the glittering detour that costs your breath. Say yes to the unsexy scaffolding systems. Drafts, clean data, clear budgets that invisibly supports the moment when momentum arrives. Latency is when infrastructure is built, so success can enter a house with working electricity. If doubt argues that nothing is happening, give it evidence. It can't ignore track-kept promises. Not external applause. A small ledger sleep honored. Breaths felt before replies. Hours protected. Tasks completed becomes proof that the field is consistent, even when results are quiet. Consistency compacts into magnetism. Magnetism changes the calendar before it changes the headline. Here is a gentle protocol for the I see nothing days. Orient to the present. Name 5 ordinary anchors in your space. Let the eyes widen. This reminds the body we are not in an emergency. Breathe to coherence. 4 in. 2. Hold. 6 to 8 out, 5 rounds. Wait for the shoulders to drop on their own. Tend the soil. Choose one micro movement that keeps the signal warm. 250 words. 1 clear email. 10 minutes of practice. A $5 transfer into the future's jar. Close the loop. Mark completion in a visible way. Cross it off. Place the page in a folder. Put a dot on the calendar. Let your system feel the click. Release the outcome. Whisper. Not stalled proofing. Step away for 2 minutes of sky, or a short walk, so the body encodes spaciousness instead of craving urgency. Over time, the interval between signal and form shortens not because you learned a trick, but because your field can hold unchanged fidelity without panicking. You'll notice a day when the email arrives you once chased, when the introduction finds you without your performance kit, when the idea that felt blurry for months lands whole. It will look sudden to onlookers. You will know it was brewed in the quiet yeast, doing its anonymous work. Roots deepening where no one claps. If you need an image to carry, picture a tide clock. It doesn't scold the ocean for low tide. It tells the truth about where the water is. And it waits. In latency, become that clock. Keep time with practices that don't depend on spectacle. Protect the room where your work sits. Guard the white space that lets you hear your life. Be faithful to the note you've chosen: gratitude, peace, kindness, until your days hum in that key without effort. Respect the ripening, not because you're fragile, but because your becoming is intelligent. Signals take time to condense. The unseen deserves its hours. When you trust that, you stop mistaking silence for failure and start hearing what silence actually says. Keep the soil warm. The shape is on its way. And when it arrives, it won't feel like a miracle stolen from the gods. It will feel like a natural consequence of a life lived in rhythm, steady, generous, right on time. 10. Where ancient wisdom meets modern science. Change the observer. Change the world you walk in across languages and centuries. The old teachers kept singing a single note in different melodies. Become what you seek. The Stoics called it the inner citadel. The Taoists spoke of moving without forcing. The desert mystics listened for the still, small voice. In the Upanishads, the seer and the seen are not two. Strip away the robes and incense, and the counsel is astonishingly practical. Who you are, while you look, determines what you see. Modern science, when you place it gently beside this wisdom, doesn't cancel the song. It gives us instruments to hear more of it. At the quantum edge, matter behaves like a library of possibilities until an observation selects one chapter to read aloud. In the lab of ordinary life, attention does something similar. The observer is not only your eyes, it's your state, breath, posture, emotion, memory, and the quiet vows you live by without naming them. Change that state, and the same facts arrange into a different day. Neuroscience helps us map why this feels true in the body. A calm, coherent nervous system feeds the brain a wider field of information. The prefrontal cortex, the part that plans, empathizes, chooses, comes online. A braced, alarmed system shrinks the world to a tunnel. In a tunnel, every shadow looks like proof you're not enough. In a wider field, the exact same shadow becomes data. You can use a boundary to set, a step to take, a kindness to offer. The ancients called this seeing with the heart. Today, we might call it heart, brain, coherence, breath, and attention, bringing pulse and thought into rhythm, so perception is less about fear and more about truth. Even the placebo and nocebo effects, so often treated like footnotes, whisper an old message in new language. Expectation, meaning, and context can change outcomes in the body. Not because we are pretending, but because physiology listens to interpretation. The sages already taught this. The story you carry colors the world you meet. Modern imaging shows the brain predicting constantly and updating when reality disagrees. Ancient practice says, train the prediction with compassion and presence, so the update can arrive without shame. Different roads, same village. And then there is identity, the deepest pattern beneath our days. The wise ones warned that craving rearranges the furniture, but keeps the same house. Only being renovates the foundation. The modern frame agrees in its own way. Behavior change sticks when it is anchored in identity-level shifts. You don't force yourself to write. You become a person who writes. You don't squeeze in compassion. You become someone whose nervous system recognizes kindness as home. Outcomes follow identity, the way shadows follow light. This is why attraction is so often misunderstood. We don't magnetize what we want, while staying who we've always been. We magnetize the version of reality that fits who we are becoming. Wanting is a spark. Becoming is a current. The current is what the world can feel. A quiet, congruent field says, I keep my word to myself. I breathe before I answer. I choose one true action over 10 frantic ones. Life replies in the same tone doors that match your pace. People who don't require your self-betrayal. Work that needs your voice instead of your performance. Ancient practice gives us rituals to keep the current steady. Dawn, silence, mindful breath, honest labor, gratitude spoken aloud, service that expects nothing back, modern tools. Let us tune these rituals to our biology. Slower exhales to nudge the vagus nerve towards safety. Morning light to anchor the circadian clock. Single task focus to restore a fatigued prefrontal cortex. Movement to metabolize stress chemistry. None of this needs to be dramatic. The old monk swept floors like prayer. You can clear a desk the same way. The effect is cumulative. Coherence grows by repetition, not by spectacle. Change, the observer, can sound abstract until you bring it into a Tuesday. So try this as an experiment in the meeting place of old and new. Before you act, arrive in the body, 2 inches behind the eyes. Yaf soft. Breath long enough to lower the shoulders on its own. This is the temple without architecture, the lab without machines. Choose a sentence you can stand in tomorrow. Short, truthful, humane. Ancient rule: let your yes be yes and your no be no. Modern rule: keep cognitive load low so you can follow through. Take one step that matches that sentence, not 10. 1. The nervous system learns trust through kept promises. Trust changes perception more reliably than adrenaline ever did. When the day pushes back, which it will, I return to rhythm instead of forced breath. Boundary. A brief walk under literal light. The mystics called it recollection. The neuroscientists call it regulation. Both names mean the same act: you stop abandoning yourself. Notice what does not change in this marriage. Of wisdom's reality still offers weather. Grief still visits. Delays still confuse. The point was never to manipulate the sky. It was to meet the sky with a field that can read it. The more often you meet it from wholeness, the more clearly the next doorway shows itself. And the less you spend your life arguing with thresholds that weren't meant for you. You'll know the two traditions have shaken hands inside you when the ordinary grows luminous without becoming unreal. A clear table at dawn feels like permission. A single sincere email lands heavier than a dozen performed ones. The money you direct begins to behave like a tool, not a verdict. The relationship where you speak plainly becomes oxygen instead of a stage. None of this feels like a trick. It feels like fit. If you want an image to carry, take this: a tuning fork held over still water. Strike it lightly, and the surface organizes into elegant ripples. Strike it harder, and the pattern blurs. Ancient wisdom is the lake, asking for stillness. Modern science is the fork, explaining resonance. Your life is the pattern on the water. You don't need to hit harder. You need to keep your instrument true. So let the old mantra and the new model walk together. Change the observer, and the observed rearranges. Live as the person whose breath is steady, whose boundaries are doors, not walls, whose work matches their nervous system, whose gratitude is specific enough to anchor gain. Then watch as outcomes stop arriving as exceptions and start behaving like a language you finally speak. Not because the world has grown easier, but because the one who is observing has grown whole. 11. From seeker to observer, returning power to presence. There is a moment on every honest path when the chase gets quiet. Not because you've given up, but because something wiser has laid a gentle hand on your shoulder and turned you toward the only place life can actually meet you here. This is the shift from seeker to observer. It sounds subtle. It isn't. It's the difference between tugging at the door and standing so true that the door recognizes you. The seeker is brave and sincere. The seeker studies, lists, tunes, tries. The seeker makes mood boards and bargains with time. But inside, even in the best seasons, there's a hum that never rests. Not yet. Not enough. Not me. Not quite. That hum leaks into every practice, no matter how beautiful. It tells the body we're behind. And the body obliges with tight breath and quick pulse. The world then reads our signal and sends back a version of itself that matches the tension. The observer isn't a better person. The observer is a different posture. The observer does not abandon action. The observer abandons the frantic premise that action alone can save us. From the observer's seat, a few inches behind the eyes, shoulders softened, breath moving like a tide, attention widens. The field quiets, and reality, freed from being bullied or seduced, can finally bring the next true step forward. Think of a river. The seeker is the current, rushing, scanning for openings, muscling through debris, useful sometimes, exhausting most days. The observer is the riverbed, steady, shaped for flow, guiding water without strain. When you become riverbed, life's movement is not your enemy. It is something you can hold. Doors stop being tests of force and become moments of fit. What does this look like on an ordinary Tuesday? In conversation, the seeker listens to respond, rehearsing counterpoints to protect an image. The observer listens to receive, trusting that a shorter, truer sentence will arrive when breath is available. You say, "I can do this part, not that part," and your body doesn't braces for exile. You leave the room intact, which changes the next 3 rooms you enter. At work, the seeker stacks tasks to prove momentum. The observer completes one meaningful piece from a calm spine and lets completion speak for them. You stop auditioning for rooms that require your self-erasure and start building rooms that match your nervous system. Productivity ceases to be adrenaline with good branding. It becomes coherence applied. With money, the seeker treats money like a verdict, running toward it for approval or away from it in shame. The observer assigns money, jobs, stability, generosity, nourishment, and watches anxiety shrink because each dollar now carries purpose instead of identity. In love, the seeker gives to be chosen and over-explains to be kept. The observer offers presence with boundaries that breathe. I care about this, and I can't carry that. Bonds that can't survive truth quietly fade. Bonds that can deepen. Either way, self-betrayal stops being the toll you pay to belong. Moving from seeking to observing requires trusting rhythm over drama. You keep small, boring rituals that keep you breath before reply. Light on the eyes in the morning. One honest task finished. White space. You defend like medicine. The seeker asks for breakthroughs. The observer cultivates conditions. Under good conditions, breakthroughs stop being accidents. Your mind will protest. It will swear that if you stop gripping, everything will fall apart. Smile at that old guardian. It kept you alive. Then prove a new truth in slow one conversation by 10% and watch it get clearer. Delay one decision until after a walk and watch it get kinder. Choose one boundary and watch the room reorganize around it without the apocalypse it promised. The observer collects evidence for ease. There's a tenderness to this shift because it strips away heroic fantasies. You stop being the star of a rescue movie and become the steward of a real life. Stewardship is humbler and more muscular. It asks, every day, what protects my signal? You'll find that sleep is not laziness but tuning. Food is not reward but chemistry. Tidying a table is not a chore but a way of telling attention where to land. The seeker treats self-care as a treat. The observer treats it as infrastructure. You may wonder, if I'm not seeking, will I lose my hunger? No. Hunger finnes. Craving scrapes. Observing doesn't delete desire. It dignifies it. Desire becomes a compass, not a courtroom. From the observer, longing doesn't sound like a siren. It sounds like a bell clear, specific, patient. Bells don't chase people down, they ring. And those meant to hear, hear. A practice for the crossing arrive. Place a hand on your chest. Feel the drum that never voted against you. 2 breaths longer on the exhale than the inhale. Shoulders drop on their own. Name the stance. Whisper. I choose to observe from wholeness. Let the words be plain. If you feel nothing, keep them anyway. Feeling often follows form. Pick one place today to stop seeking. One email sent without auditioning. One price named without apology. One conversation ended when your body said enough. End with a click. Mark completion visibly cross the line. Close the tab. Put the tool away. Completion teaches your system, we carry what we start. Honor the quiet. 2 minutes of sky. A short walk. 1 clear surface rituals that tell the day. We are not in a chase. As the observer takes root, you will notice a change in tempo. Coincidences cluster without your choreography. The call you once chased arrives on its own feet. Losses still come, but they no longer recruit your self-abandonment. Success still asks for strength, but not for speed that injures. The horizon doesn't run from you. It joins the room you are already in. And here is the most surprising: kindness satisfaction stops being the enemy of growth. The observer can feel enough at noon and still reach for more at 2 o'clock because enough is a nervous system truth, not a ceiling. From that steadiness, ambition becomes generous. You build things that don't require other people to shrink. You choose opportunities that don't cost your sleep. You measure a day by its fit, not its applause. If you need an image to carry forward, hold this: a lighthouse on a patient coast. The seeker would sprint the cliffs, waving a lantern and shouting at the sea. The observer keeps the glass clean, the lamp trimmed, the timing faithful, because it is consistent. Ships find home. Becoming the observer is becoming that light for your own life. You stop chasing boats. You keep the conditions. The tide does the rest. When you release the role of seeker, you are not giving up on the future. You are making room for it. You trade the adrenaline of pursuit for the authority of presence. You stop dragging tomorrow into today and discover that the right tomorrow enters today on its own, at a pace your body can love. And if doubt still whispers, place your palm over your heart and choose one sentence you can stand in tomorrow. I will not abandon myself to earn what already belongs to me. Say it once. Breathe once. Then do the next ordinary thing: pour water. Send the note. Clear the corner of the desk like someone who trusts the door to know their name. Seeker to observer. Chase to presence. Proving to belonging. It's not a personality transplant. It's a homecoming. Keep coming home. And watch how often the world meets you at the threshold, not dazzled, not reluctant, simply aligned. Victory is not possession. It is harmony. There is a way of winning that leaves nothing broken behind you. Not the victory that hoards, not the triumph that needs an audience, but the soft, steady alignment that lets your life click into place because you have clicked into place. You did not come to bully the world into opening. You came to tune your instrument until the right door recognizes its own note in you and swings quietly, without argument. The universe does not negotiate with speeches. It listens to frequency. Every conscious breath is a tiny adjustment of the strings. Every loving choice at the edge of anger lays another thread across the gap that once split you from yourself. Every minute of stillness is a return to your original tempo, the pulse you forgot while you were performing urgency. This is not sentimental. It is practical. Coherence is how power travels without leakage. When your inner weather steadies, reality has fewer reasons to hesitate. Change your frequency, and the conversation changes. Opportunity stops behaving like a rare creature to be tracked and trapped. It becomes a daily language. The small kindness you used to ignore turns into guidance. The invitation you would have chased knocks of its own accord. Money loses its role as verdict and returns to its rightful place as a tool with tasks. Love ceases to be an exam and becomes a meeting. Two regulated nervous systems, making room for a third thing between them: truth. You'll know the shift has taken root when ordinary moments feel proportionate again. A clear table in morning light becomes permission. A single sincere email carries farther than a dozen frantic ones. A short walk resolves a decision that 2 hours of rumination could not because the world has grown easier, but because the one who is meeting it is whole enough to hear it correctly. Victory, in this sense, is not a spike of success, but a sustained chord breath, boundary, and action ringing in tune. If reading this has opened a small meadow of quiet in your chest, treat that quiet as a compass. Nearness often feels like calm, not fireworks. The mind will try to bargain. Hold on to what's familiar. At least you know its edges. The body knows better. It knows the warmth of a door that fits your hands, the relief of a room where you don't have to disappear to be loved, the steadiness of work that matches your nervous system. Trust the body's yes when it is clear and kind. Trust the body's no when it is simple and survivable. These are the coordinates of harmony. Do not cling to the old because it knows your name. Familiarity is not fidelity. The version of you that needed noise to feel alive has done their job. You can thank them and choose a different ignition. Do not refuse the fire because it is warm. Some things are meant to be tempered, not avoided. Gold learns itself at that heat. Your task is not to stay untouched. It is to stay intact while you're touched by change, by love, by responsibility, by joy. If you want a way to live this without turning it into another performance, keep your rituals human-sized. One breath you can feel before you answer. One boundary, spoken in a sentence, you can live with tomorrow. One surface cleared, so attention stops tripping on its way to what matters. One act of generosity that doesn't injure next week. 1 minute of stillness at the doorway between tasks. Harmony doesn't appear because you made a grand vow. It arrives because you kept small promises through different weather. You will wobble. You'll catch yourself proving after a compliment, chasing after an opening, apologizing for a boundary you already knew was right. Don't turn the wobble into a verdict. Repair gently. Sleep. Drink water. Name the old reflex aloud. I wanted to earn this by gripping and choose the next honest step from a softer jaw. Repair is the heartbeat of longevity. The life that can repair itself is the life that can last. What belongs to you is not withholding. It is organizing. It moves at the pace of the frequency you keep. That's why the speed of your breath matters. That's why the quality of your attention matters. That's why the design of your room and the kindness of your calendar and the tone of your self-talk matter. They are not decorations. They are the infrastructure of harmony. Build it humbly. Maintain it mercifully. Let it be boring enough to work. Carry an image into tomorrow. A lighthouse on an honest coast. It does not sprint the cliffs waving a lamp. It keeps its glass clean. Its flame tended. Its timing faithful. Because it is consistent, the sea knows how to find it. Let your presence be that steady enough that opportunity can navigate by you. Strong enough that storms do not erase you. Simple enough that your own heart can rest inside your ribs. And if doubt visits tonight, because doubt loves evenings, place a hand over your chest and listen for the drum that never voted against you. Give yourself one breath longer on the exhale than the inhale. Whisper a sentence you can stand in. Tomorrow I choose harmony over hurry. I choose presence over proof. I choose the next honest step. Then do something so ordinary it could never make a highlight reel. Wash one cup. Write one line. Turn off one light. Leave one drawer empty on purpose. These are not small things. They are the sound of your life clicking back into tune. You did not come to win by possession. You came to win by fit, to meet the world in a way that neither shrinks you nor devours you. To let your breath and your day rhyme often enough that the door opens at your approach. When you live like that, success stops being something you have to hold up with both hands. It starts being something that holds you, a natural resting place you can return to after work, after grief, after joy, after the long, ordinary afternoon. So place your palm on your heart. Inhale, like the air is on your side. Take one faithful step. What belongs to you is already on its way, coming at the exact pace of the frequency you are willing to keep. Not with noise, not with spectacle, but with the unmistakable ease of a note finding its chord. That is victory. That is harmony. And it is enough.